can watch us, and Councillor Merrill is in Yellowknife, and she is she's on. That's her right there.
I'm on the phone, yes.
Thank you, Alana. So with the committee of the whole meeting, just for the new members and a reminder for the repeat members, we're not making motions or seconding motions or voting on any motions. It's mostly a committee meeting where we'll go through the agenda and have discussions, get reports from the directors. And then if we need additional information to make any of those decisions for Wednesday, then staff will pull that. Cindy, Jenna, and staff will pull that information together so that we'll have that Wednesday. So Wednesday is the meeting that will make motions and approve things and then formally, well, approve things or not approve things, I guess, and then that's where the decisions will be made. But tonight is the evening where we have a lot more discussion on all of those items. So come Wednesday, not that all the discussion is over, but most people have had the information they need to move forward on the decision. Okay. So with that, just looking at the adoption of the agenda, and I think Jenna sent out one additional item that wasn't initially in the package, correct?
Yes.
And then there was a brochure on the law firm that would do the PowerPoint, our input on the rate exchange intervention. So that was also sent out after the initial package came out. We just received that this morning. Okay. Guess we still do the declaration of conflict of interest, given that it's good for the discussion. So any declarations of conflict of interest with any of the agenda items?
Yeah, that's one left.
Okay. Any others? Okay. All right. Delegations, presentations, and petitions. I have Jesse from the RCMP is, and you've seen the RCMP report, but Jesse, come on up and you want to give us, you don't have to read the report, but if you want to give us an overview of what's been happening in the town and what's been keeping the officers busy, that would be great.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations to yourself, the new counselors and returning counselors. Definitely a huge thanks when you guys serve your community like you are. So I thank you for that. And definitely want to open it up to some of the new counselors that have questions, concerns about how we sort of report. But yeah, generally I won't read off the report. You guys, I'm sure hopefully had a chance to review it. One thing I would kind of highlight is those sort of priorities on that second page. These were agreed upon, well, a little less than a year ago, with the assistance from the mayor of the time and some of the councillors. And, that's enhanced road safety. That encompasses sort of everything from speeding to impaired driving. And as I'm sure we're all aware, the Northwest Territories has significantly unfortunate high levels of impaired driving still. So that is one of our big priorities, is to keep those folks off the road. And it's all times of day too, which is really concerning. So with the help of people calling that in and our proactive measures, that's how we try to sort of tackle that, for lack of a better term. We want to be very crime prevention focused and not so reactive. We want to be proactive. So when you see sort of the we call it the legal drug trade disruptions, that's us trying to be proactive, right? Get ahead of that, not let that dangerous stuff in our communities. It also includes kind of offender management. So those individuals who are on court imposed conditions, we proactively make sure that they're following those conditions. They keep not only victims safe, but the community at large safe. And it can be something as important as doing walkthroughs of apartment buildings, so that folks that live there see us walk through. Just our presence sometimes can help deter crime and make people feel a little bit safer. And another equally as important component is that safety and wellness of our Indigenous communities. And a big part of that is working with the Inuvik Justice Committee, who's been a great partner of the Inuvik RCMP since I've been here anyways. Looking at restorative justice measures for those offenders where it fits and makes sense. So we can divert some of those individuals that don't need to go through the court system. It's also, attending those community events when and where we can, and be part of the community, be, citizens, because we live here too, and we're all proud to be part of Inuvik and live here. So again, I'll just kind of pass it over to the group to see if they have questions or comments. We don't just have to stick once a month to talking. It's not the way I like to operate for many of the counselors and that have known me from before. I generally like to do lots of talking in between in less formal settings. But if folks have questions on sort of reporting, what the RCP in general is up to around here, I'm more than happy to answer those here.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. Questions from council? Councilor Barrick?
Great, thank you. Good to read. Been a while since I've seen one of these reports. I was on council for a couple terms before. It's good to see some of the numbers we want to see going up are going up, and some of the numbers we want to see down are going down. Seems like some of the priorities are working. It's great to see the drug trafficking numbers going up. That's obviously a key concern you guys have heard, and we all hear regularly around the community. So it's good to see that coming through. I know in one of the previous councils, we did a concerted effort with the RCMP to really push out and promote the Crime Stoppers line. And again, highlighting the fact that, people that may be a little scared or uncomfortable can report things anonymously. And when we did a big push that way, kind of in collaboration, and other groups did too, through Facebook postings and posters around town, the RCMP did report receiving a surge in calls, and we're able to start enacting more responses to things that we saw. So if it hasn't been done for a while, it might be a good idea to do that again. I think it really worked well last time, and I know I was putting it out on my Facebook all the time, and we're sharing it and encouraging people to report and just letting them know they don't have to give their name if they don't want to, because that's always something people always say they don't want to report because they're scared of having to go to court or something and testify. But just encouraging them that there is a safe spot to do that. So really good to see. Thank you for all your guys' hard work. I guess one other question I quickly had too, which I've heard a couple of people ask around town, is have you guys rolled out the body cams yet here, or do you have a timeline for when that might come online?
Yeah, great question. You're stealing my thunder. I projected to be about March for Inuvik. And part of that, it gives me lots of good time to actually present that sort of to town and council on what that's going to look like. And also the Indigenous communities that we serve here in Inuvik as well. We're over the moon excited about it. I see nothing but good things about it. I know our new commanding officers talked about police accountability, and body-worn cameras are going to help us with that, right? And just looping back, so to be determined very quickly, actually, I'd like to start speaking and kind of briefing everybody on those. And then back to the Crime Stoppers thing, I want people to have as many options to report crime as possible. And that's definitely one. We've got a great sort of media person in Yellowknife that helps us quite a bit. And that's something that I can see, if he can kind of send out some messaging to the community of Inuvik. I'm big, Facebook's big here, obviously, to get the message out. Not everybody reads CBC News North or anything like that. So I'm more than happy. The more ways people can report crime, absolutely the better. So thank you for bringing that up.
Any other questions? Alana, any questions from you?
No, no, thanks, Peter.
Jesse, with the holiday season coming in, I think the first Christmas party was last Saturday. Specific plans for keeping the streets safe?
Yes, so it's an initiative supported by the chiefs of police across Canada. So starting actually this Saturday is when we kind of do the big proactive push on that. There'll be some probably messaging coming out from our media folks as well on that. But, starting this Saturday, moving throughout the Christmas season, you expect to see lots more of those, we call them check stops, ride programs are called in other jurisdictions, and more police on the road pulling vehicles over for that very, very purpose. Not only impaired driving, but we see, issues with disqualified drivers, children not in child restraints, distracted driving. Those are just some of our other sort of priorities around keeping our roads safe. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay. Thanks very much for the report. We look forward to our continued good relationship, and I know you've got a great relationship with our Protective Services Director and those staff, so as was evident this morning when you're both on the scene of the incident. So it's great to see both the town and the police working together to help keep the community safe, and we look forward to more of that in the future.
Absolutely a great partners here at the town of Inuvik. So thank you very much, folks. Have a good night.
Strongly valued tonight. Yeah, good to go. Public question period. We have 2 members of the public. Any questions? No? Good on the questions? Okay. Adoption of the minutes. So those are the minutes from our previous meeting. I think there was 1 correction of those sent in already. Anything else people have noticed on the minutes that needs to be corrected?
The correction, the 8.3. Counselor Deputy Mayor.
No, it was on conflict of interest, who had indicated conflict of interest on 1 item. But did you have another correction?
Yeah, just in the 8.3 section, just says it moved by Counselor Deputy Mayor.
Oh,
Probably
okay,
Counselor.
just a typo.
Extra work, like in lieutenant general.
Okay. Anything else on the minutes? Okay. Action items. None on the list. New business. So there will be a request for council decision on the amendment of fees and charges policy. And if you look on the second page and have eyes of a 13-year-old, you could probably read that. So it's a little small, but it does list the old fees, new fees, and then the difference on those fees. One question I had for the Director of Protective Services. Is there a better, I notice we have in there kind of 3 dog categories: intact dog, neutered, spayed dog, and then nuisance dog. Is there a better term for nuisance dog that would be more descriptive? I don't know if nuisance dog is used for all of the municipalities or how we came up with that, but it took me a little bit of going back into the definitions. And it describes an aggressive dog, but I don't know how we got the term nuisance.
Under the dog bylaw, there's a like a strict definition of a nuisance dog and how like an animal is deemed to be a nuisance dog. It's a specific protocol that we go through, but we did remove those from the fee structure. So it should just be annual license annual license, lifetime license, and renewal, and that's it now. And that's what I submitted for the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, sorry, you will see there in terms of the fees, universal fee in terms of licensing.
The confusion might be that there is 2 small errors in the table that might be raising confusion.
Significant point. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Under the new way it'll be described, it'll just be listed as all dogs. If they won't be separated by category. Under the new universal fees.
Oh, I see, so, okay. So that'll solve that problem, we're not using that term anywhere in there.
Yeah, we recognize it was a little bit complicated, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to simplify the entire process just to have like annual and like.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It also raised the question of if these dogs are that aggressive and they bit people, they bit other dogs, oops, sorry. If these dogs are that aggressive and they bit other people and bit other dogs, why are we still licensing them?
There's yeah, and because nuisance dog can capture quite a few things, like we would look at an aggressive dog or a violent dog that's actually attacked very differently than just a nuisance dog. A
Right,
nuisance dog can also include a dog that's like consistently barking, one that's escaped and is at large on a regular basis, other things like that. Just to give them tools under the bylaw itself. But yeah, we recognize that it was just a little bit complicated within that, and makes sense to simplify the process.
thanks. Any other questions on these fee changes? Councilor McDonald?
Yeah, again for Brian, I was just looking at your nuisance calls for the fire alarm systems. And after the second one, $1,500. Where did you come up with that number? That seems, to me, I deal with it a lot as well. That seems to be pretty extreme.
So that's based on our typical response, because what we used to do is for nuisance calls, and we did literally for each apparatus that was sent out. So if we get a typical response, we'd have usually car one, pump two, and then rescue vehicle as well, just depending on what it is. So it's basically just taking the per hour cost for that, combining it all together under one specific, like under one specific amount, just to give us more ability to recoup our costs when we actually respond to nuisance calls. What we're finding is there's very few property owners that we're invoicing for this. It tends to be like consistently returning to the same properties. What we did is we looked at other municipalities and what they're charging as well. We know that the Illinois charges $2,500 for a nuisance alarm or a technical fault. So it's quite a bit higher than what we do. We decided to lower it from that and kind of base it on the previous, the cumulative effects of the per apparatus. Because what we find is there's inconsistencies based on the type of response that we would get. So sometimes if we sent out one truck, it would just be a $300 charge, but then the exact same type of response, depending on how it was paged out through our system and through the 911 system, it could result in 5-6 trucks coming out. So we want to put it under one single one. The idea is that for the first call, we work extensively with the landlord just to make sure that we get qualified contractors in to review the systems, to go over any security issues that may be happening in the building that allow for nuisance calls to be happening. The second one, it's even more so. We typically get the building manager involved. We're not dealing with just maintenance. We'll contact the actual owners of the property itself instead of just dealing with representatives. So it's an escalating process on this. It is very few landlords that we have had to invoice under the previous system. And it's basically targeting the ones that are consistently going up, consistently incurring fees and consistently incurring charges. So we work with every landlord again, just to make sure. So we know it's an issue. We give them our duty numbers, we give them the non-emergency numbers that they can call to get a hold of us as well. And we ask them to just call us in advance. So the idea is that if they get a hold of us and say, "Whoa, it's a false alarm, we know what this is," then we don't respond and wouldn't incur the charges. So, but there is a cost to respond to each of these calls. It's the time, it's the effort, it's every single firefighter that comes out gets compensated for showing up to the hall for these. There's the wear and tear on the apparatus, which is quite expensive. See that during capital budget line about the replacement cost for apparatus. So there's a number of different costs that we try to recover through this process, that is encompassed within that $1,500 charge. So.
And if you don't mind asking, I know I don't think it falls under your jurisdiction, but now say if somebody says, well, I'm just gonna shut this fire alarm off, or we're not gonna use the fire alarm, does that fall under the fire marshal, I'm guessing, or who polices that, or who looks at that?
It can be a bit complicated in that sense, because we, as I'm considered a local assistant to the fire marshal, under the Fire Prevention Act. So I have the authority to issue fines under the Fire Prevention Act, and fines would be different than our cost recovery. So I can pursue that for landlords and commercial property owners that aren't in compliance with the Fire Prevention Act. And other aspects of the fire code as well, which would include alarms and things like that too. That's one of the things we're, again, trying to work with several different commercial landlords, just to improve the general safety, including the auto alarms that are coming through. As well as just again, the security of the building is one of the bigger issues, where we get consistent nuisance alarms, so pulled alarms. We go to quite a few places for that. It tends to be the same property over and over and over. And that's kind of one of the main issues with that, so.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Any further questions on 8.1? Counselor Barrett?
Yeah, we can just sit back down. Just a quick question. I think it's pretty straightforward. I just want to confirm. So for the apparatus standby fee, you're moving from $300 for first hour to $1,500 for 3 hours to kind of get rid of that per apparatus. So that could include multiple apparatus, which I'm assuming the vehicles, that $1,500. Okay.
Yes, that's the idea for that. One of the main reasons for the standby is we typically don't charge for that. It would be for events and things like that. What we want to be able to do is capture the in-kind value that the town is contributing to various events as well. So similar to other events where people request for usage of a facility, for instance, we want to be able to capture that under a request to council, where we can show the fire department's providing X amount of dollars in-kind contributions on a regular basis to various organizations within the community. So we don't envision actually charging community organizations for standby events and things like that, but we do want to capture that data. We think that's a pretty effective way to do it. So while still allowing for what we're realizing is we're getting contact from other organizations like businesses, out-of-town businesses and others. They're working with local contractors on like various developments that are happening in town and outside of town. And they're looking for our capabilities, whether we can provide fire standby, we can provide personnel for fire standby. So we want to be able to include that on a prescribed amount on our fees and services policy as well, just so we can capture that additional revenue from out-of-town businesses.
I think that makes sense. No, I just kind of look at it and gee, there's only one apparatus. It's kind of a 60% increase in the amount, but I mean, if it's multi-vehicle, it's obviously you're probably going to get good value for that. I have one more question, Mr. Chair, which is about the skate sharpening. So I just had a quick question about why the skate sharpening is being proposed to go up to $755, seems like a nice round amount, and I don't know if it would be that much difference in the fee structure, and it's kind of a nice little service to provide, especially for the youngsters to get their skate sharpened for a nominal fee. So is I don't know, I guess I just kind of question, is it something that we actually want to do to raise that up to $750, because then there's a lot more change in financial and administrative hassle at the front desk as well. No.
The purpose for this increase is that clients are now asking for specialized services that are taking more staff time, and the $2.50 increase is a very small amount to increase the skate sharpening cost for these particular services that are being requested.
Is that like a specialized kind of sharpening then? Or it's not?
Yes, it is.
I wonder if it would even be worthwhile considering
Basic and advanced.
basic and yeah, like a, or need like a $5 and $10 structure, depending on what service you want.
I'll definitely consider that.
Putting it out there for people to talk about.
You're just talking about the widths, a half inch or 3, it's, so the actual time sharpening skates haven't changed, it's just you change the wheel on the blade, or you move, or.
So what's happening is that we're getting 15 pairs of skates a day, which is taking a lot of our staff time to sharpen skates, redress wheels for particular hollows that clients are requesting. And that can vary from, you know, a standard hollow down and then readjusting, or trying to find all the skates that are one designation and sharpening all those skates and then doing the next pair by redressing wheels. It's taking a lot of time. for staff, and players now are a lot harder on their equipment, and some of the skate blades are different densities of steel and different components, so they're taking up a lot more of our equipment, like the wheels are wearing down quicker, staff have to redress wheels and spending more time per pair of skates to sharpen a pair of skates.
One more question, and maybe this is already thought, has there ever been consideration of getting an automatic skate sharpening machine? You just feed it in, give it your money, and then you watch it, just do it automatically. I know it's not the best quality, but for someone, you know, like the 5 and 6 and 8-year-olds, maybe they don't necessarily need a really high-end job skate sharpening.
I've never considered one of those. I've used one in the past, and every time I've used it, I've had to take my skates back to a professional to have them fixed and pay even more money to have them fixed. So in my opinion, those things are not worth money to pay for them.
I tend to agree, scary.
On that note, you have to, the maintenance on something like that, wouldn't, I don't think would pay for itself in the long run. If it breaks down, there's no way here that's gonna fix this automatic skate sharpener locally, so keep that in mind.
Any question?
What would the actual cost be? Because if I look at the staff time, they're there anyway. So is it really costing any more staff time? Is one thing, but do we actually have any kind of like estimated numbers of what it may cost, and if we increase by 250, like what kind of extra revenue that will kind of put into the town at the end of the day?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, unfortunately, but I'd be happy to provide them.
Any further questions? Cindy?
Before we go into the vote on Wednesday, did you want us to change it to reflect basic and advanced?
There could be an option, we could do one way it is that you can defeat or approve, or we can have a second option where we create a basic and an advanced fee. And that will be the motion will capture both of those fees in it.
I guess from a staffing perspective, is that doable or workable if we had a separation between, you know, basic, you know, sharpening of the average kid skates compared to, I don't know who's getting the advanced, whether it's the adults or the not midgets anymore, but the, you know, 18 and unders, 16 and unders.
I don't have any objection to create two different costs for skate sharpening. I mean, even kids now, like 12-year-old kids are asking for specialized services. So they're more in tune to their equipment and the gear that they're using for high performance hockey. And can't fault them for being aware of their, you know, their equipment. But it does cost us more staff time and more material to do so.
I think the other thing to consider is if your kid has a $500 hockey stick, the parents can probably afford, you know, the advanced fee, whatever that would be to get the skates sharpened, because these hockey sticks are crazy. Really, all the money that students or hockey players are paying for those. Councilor McDonald.
Yeah, I don't think that's a great idea, because when he's talking about basic and advanced might be just a different wheel, so you'd have to put a definition on what is basic and what is advanced. I mean, if you're gonna increase it to 750, so be it. But I like the idea of like, is that really gonna bring in that much more revenue? Is that a necessary cost increase, like Stephen said? So either, it's my opinion that we just raise it to 750 with extra $2.50 and not make this more complicated than it is.
Just before that, it wouldn't take too much administrative initiative to be able to distinguish like a standard 1/2-inch hollow. It would be your regular $5 service per se. And then anything other than a 1/2 inch, you would pay the additional fee to have that service provided to you.
Councilor Fair.
I think that it makes a lot of sense to try and maintain a rate that's similar to $5 for a basic skate sharpening, because I think that not all populations or individuals who are going out to skate could potentially afford the price increase. And that by having two rankings, it could alleviate potential costs that you're incurring, as I'm hearing. But maybe adding some information around what extra revenue you're potentially proposing to generate under a new costing system for this might help us to better understand sort of the need and what you intend to gain from that extra $2.50.
I'd be happy to provide that.
Okay, if you can provide that for Wednesday, then that'll help counselors make a decision. Great, thanks.
Sure thing.
Fulsome discussion.
More discussion on that one than I thought we were gonna get.
Yeah, me too.
Request for council decision number 8.2, amendment to the donation and sponsorship policy. And it's basically just adding the September 30th, the day of Truth and Reconciliation, as a donation of the community hall. Any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. Okay. 8.3, request for council decision, December holiday hours in town facilities, and I'll let our SAO just go through this so that everyone will have a good idea of what will be involved with that.
So generally what we're looking at, we're trying to align, for the most part, for our staff as well, to have family time.
Or just be big in front of people. Right, anyway.
So what we are proposing is basically a Christmas break for most of the staff. The recreation programming, understanding that it is Christmas break, generally do have some reduced hours. So the town hall, in terms of the administrative component, would be closed for that 2-week period, and then the recreation program, the library, would be limited hours, again, to give some staff some time. In addition to the protective services department would be not in the office, however, always are available 24/7. So that's basically what we are proposing this year, and this generally aligns with what we have done in the past.
Questions from council? Sorry. One question, I see that on Monday. Oh, that's part of the mandatory days, yeah, that answered that question, okay.
So can you, part of the mandatory days?
Yeah, so. Did you want to explain that?
So for those who have worked with GNWT, there's mandatory days as part of similar to the Donny Days, I think people also call them, throughout the Christmas season. So this is incorporated into our human resource policy, that in addition to designated holidays over the Christmas break, the previous council had allowed mandatory days off to actually be able to shut down, so people don't have to use their vacation and work around the stat days, so they can actually spend time with their family.
And so what happens on places that we keep open, the complex, the pool, the arena, the library, those staff then are required to take that time off within the next month or two.
Yes.
So it's basically flex those mandatory days to give them the days off, but not during the holidays when people want to be using the facilities. Any questions on that? Okay. 8.4, support for the town, request for council decision. We support for the town of Inuvik to apply to intervene on the proposed power rate, and that is also accompanied by the brochure that was sent out for that law firm company. This company and Ranji has represented the town of Inuvik in the past, and may also be representing the town of Norman Wells, and it's kind of a two-staged approach where there's a general discussion about the entire rate for the rate increase for the entire territories. And then the second part of that is the discussion about individual communities or the thermal zone and the hydro zone, because part of our issue is we're lumped into the thermal zone with everybody else burning diesel. Yes, we burn diesel, but we also burn natural gas in the generators. We have wind, we have solar, but we're lumped in with everybody else in the thermal zone. So anyway, that second part is where we would deal with individual concerns that we may have. And as it, in the past, the Power Corp covered all of the legal costs for interventions because they were the one causing the legal cost by asking for a power rate increase. So this shouldn't cost anything, but we haven't heard from the Power Corp, no, we're going to cover all the costs. That's just what they've done in the past.
If I might also add, this law firm also has the technical expertise. If you take a look at the clients that they had and their history that they had, so they have had the technical expertise that they can bring to, I think, more efficiently represent not only the town and our rates, but also for the community as well. So they will know what questions to ask or what response to give in terms of some of those responses. The other thing that we are going to be doing as well to assist, should we go with the law firm to do this, is to give a representation of the impact of those on a single family residence, with solar panels, commercial property that has solar panels, to try to give a better idea of what that actual impact is on not only individual homeowners, but also corporations and commercial businesses as well. So we're better represented, I think, in terms of what that impact is.
Yeah, just for council's information, if the rate increases go through as being requested, we pay the commercial rate, and we'll be paying over $1 a kilowatt for our power, which will probably bump us up somewhere around $2.2 million when you look at all the facilities that we have within our umbrella. So we've got a big stake in this as the town, but so does the community, because anybody who isn't residential or subsidized down to the residential rate would also be paying about $1 a kilowatt with these increases in the riders and the GST and everything that you're paying. So yeah, it's a big deal. And Cindy and I conveyed that to the Power Corp when we met with them a couple of weeks ago, that we were concerned about any increases and in just what it meant for us and our facilities and our budget. So, you know, when you look at our annual O&M budget is about 20 million per year, it's over 10% of that budget is just going to keep the lights on and keep the motors running to the Power Corp. So it's a big chunk of our budget. Any questions on the intervention? Councilor Day?
Can we get them to advocate for more solar space or even to utilize the solar we have, like at the greenhouse and proposed and
Yeah.
midnight sun complex?
Right, so those are all generating power. The greenhouse was the last net metering to be permitted in town, and then the Power Corp decided we were at 20% penetration, and then what they said at that point, which was quite a few years ago, that was the limit we were gonna allow until the wind tower came on, and then there was batteries. Then they added the solar power. The Power Corp has 4,500 solar panels that they, in a sense, rent from NETAT Energy, that's on the other side of Allen Services. So they've added a whole bunch to put into the grid. But the other thing they're finding now, and it happens everywhere, Whitehorse is going through this same issue right now. When you bring on wind and you bring on solar, if your main power plant and theirs is hydro and diesel and LNG, those systems don't work efficiently. So what they've got to do here, and we had that discussion with the new thermal manager and one of the VPs, is that the systems here, because right now they've got 2 natural gas gen sets and 4 diesel gen sets, and those operate most efficiently when they're running at 80%. If you have to throttle them down to 40%, they burn as much fuel as they do when they're at 80%, but they only produce 40% of the power. That's a lot harder on the gen set. And so what they need to do is somehow get caught up and have that power generation at the power plant, in our case, geared to the power that's needed, and not what the gen set needs to be producing. And so I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do that, but they're looking at that because they realize they're not running efficiently. And if the wind tower is, if it's windy and it's producing, it'll cover all the needs for the town, not during peak, but for most of the day. And now with these solar panels, plus all the solar panels, that are throughout the community and on buildings, we're producing a lot of renewable energy, but it's not working well with the power plant. So it's and that'll be, I think, part of the intervention that we'll also be bringing forward. You need to get these systems working together. It doesn't make any sense to have wind and solar there ready to go and not being able to use it efficiently because you're still burning diesel anyway. So yes, definitely.
Saying the door is open, now's the time to advocate for a smaller generator and more solar.
Yeah, they've got to have them tiered so that as they need it, then it tiers up. I mean, you've been in the power plant, you know how that works. But it's just a matter of getting themselves into a place where they can get that, operating efficiently, given all the other power sources that we have. And when the wind goes down or the clouds come in, yes, we need the gen sets, but we have lots of sun and we have lots of wind, so. Any further questions? Councilor Barrow?
I think I got this down now. So we are actually proposing to register as an intervener in the process as the town of Inuvik.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll definitely speak to support in that motion. This has been an ongoing issue for residents in the Northwest Territory for years. This is at least the second rate application increase over 20% since I've been a homeowner. And it's tough. The rates have gone up significantly because I have a tract right from when I first owned the house, and it is ridiculous how much it's gone up in some cases. And I think, and I could be wrong on this, it was a little disappointing in the past, I think, when some of these very large rate increases seem to be being proposed, that from what I recall, and I could be wrong, that the town didn't intervene at those times. And I think as a resident, I felt kind of disappointed, I guess, that there was not the community, the town as an administration advocating on our behalf to help maintain those costs as low as we can. Particularly for Inuvik now, since we have, as you said, so much solar, wind generation. There's been a lot of effort to jump on through renewables, and we've made pretty significant strides both in the residential and the commercial side of things. So I would definitely be in favor of this. I think we have to be at least seen to be fighting for the residents to help maintain as low a cost as we can, because it's going up all over. And I don't know what it is with the power corp. They're just going to keep coming back year over year and keep looking for these increases. And some of them have been smaller, 5%, 8%. But, as I said, the last big one I remember was 24% over 3 years. Now we're talking same ballpark over 2 years. So it's significant. It's a huge cost implication for anyone who owns a house or any business in the community. So I'm definitely in favor of registering to intervene.
Okay, thanks. Any further questions? Okay. 8.6 request for council decision. These are the tender awards as of when the road and ditch maintenance. I think that's pretty straightforward. Any questions on that? Okay. As in when for plumbing and mechanical. One thing to note that these bids are, are increasing over the years. And that it we bid last year was just under 60,000. Any questions?
It's the plumbing and mechanical.
Sorry, Councilor Barrow,
Are we not following order?
8-7.
Oh, wait, so we jumped ahead.
So did I? Did I?
You missed 8-5.
And it's.
Oh. All right, sorry. I think 8-5 maybe was stuck on the bottom of my previous one. Sorry, and this is the one, 8-5, I'm sorry, you're declaring conflict of interest on this one? Okay. Just clarification, they leave the room during the.
Yes.
Yeah, they have to leave the room. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I picked up 2 there with 8-4, so why everyone was on a different one than I was. Okay, so the 8-5 is electrical and that again, this is a substantial increase also. You'll notice in the electrical and the mechanical, we're not recommending awarding it to the lowest bidder. Some of the bids weren't compliant. They did not submit everything that was required to be submitted. So we have to consider only the compliant bids. Councilor Parrott?
What was the missing document?
The documents that we asked for in the bids are a business license, WSCC registration, certificates such as certification for their members, bonds, that type of thing. And usually it's a complete package. But if there are them missing, I mean, that's really where it comes down to, and in the practice of the GNWT, correct me if I'm wrong, if you don't submit everything, it is a no bid. So those are some of the things that were missing in some of the bids.
Councilor Barrett?
Sorry, that was actually a bit of a question I had, because I think in some of our procurement process, if there's something missing, the bidder has like 24 hours to provide in the time they're notified that it's incomplete. Not to say we have to follow that, but from my understanding, at least in the procurements and some of those that I deal with in my work, there is a period where they it often is like WSCC or something like that, where they just haven't included it, and then they would be notified they have like 24 hours to provide it. And if they don't, at that point, they're determined not compliant.
Yeah. Yeah, so typically that's done when we have just one bidder. So if it's a sole bid, then obviously your hands are tied to probably communicate with that sole bidder. But when you have multiple bidders and you have a couple bidders that actually submitted all the documents, any other bid that is incomplete is termed non-responsive.
Sounds good, because I guess I'm usually dealing with one bidder on most of my contracts, so. And I guess this is a question that might pervade a bunch of these, because I noticed, there's significant cost increases in these, and some of them are quite large. But I would also ask the question, is sometimes that in a situation where the tendering details have changed from the previous year, where they may be asking for a lot more work to be done in the current tender, which is why there's such a significant increase. Because some of them were like double or more, I think, for a few years.
Daniel?
So yeah, we did make a couple changes. I think the most significant change was in the one with the power repair. So typically the way that was done in previous years wasn't very explicit, and we ended up spending much more than what the contractor had submitted they were going to bid. So we made that, we made the language in that one a little bit clearer this time. So the price we got should be what we paid. And so the experience in the last year was we got a price for I think 16,000, but we ended up paying over 100 because of the amount of work that ended up getting done. But typically though, with the as and whens, these are all estimated hours. So if we need the plumbing contractor for more than the number of hours that was in the tender document, then obviously we're going to be paying more.
Any further questions on, I guess we've kind of lumped in.
Well,
8.5, 8.6, and 8.7, we've been discussing all three of those.
yeah, that one question kind of pervades all of them.
Yeah.
So
And I guess 8.8 is the as and when for the utilidor piling repair.
Do we let Kendall back in?
well, we should deal with 8.5 first.
Okay,
And just close that one.
yeah, is there any further questions on 8.5? Any further questions on 8.6?
If we're done 8.5.
Yeah, we can let Kendall back in. So we've dealt with 8.5, 8.6 is the road and ditch maintenance. And again, there was only one contractor on that. Any further questions on that? 8.7 is the plumbing and mechanical. Any questions? Counselor Fair?
This is one of the ones that was significantly higher than the previous years. Is this one of the ones to account for those costs that you had just mentioned, where the real costs were significantly higher than the projected costs?
Not necessarily, but yes, the number of hours we did request in this tender was more. So I increased based on the fact that we needed the plumbing contractor a lot more than we estimated last year. I increased the number of hours we put in the as and when contract for this year. So that would have been reflected in the cost as well.
Daniel, we have a plumber now on staff. Is that going to potentially affect this as and when, or does the plumber do different things than what the as and when would do?
I think the short answer to that is yes. So he typically currently works with the utility department, which doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't help us out with the pool or any other thing like that. But we're hoping to build capacity in the next year. And we'll see how that works out for us as a team, to increase his responsibility as a plumber within our tenant services. But currently his job description is with the utility department, for the utility.
Right. Okay. But I see on the org chart, he's listed as plumber, not a utilidor technician.
Yes, so the utility crew have 5 roles: technician 1, technician 2, lead hand, plumber, and a laborer.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, thanks. Uh, 8.8, utilidor piling repair. Any questions there? Okay.
1 second.
Oh, sorry, Councilor McDonald.
Yeah, this is just a question similar to Jen's, is that last year's successful bid was 26,000, and this year we're looking at 133,000. Just wondering what the substantial increase in that is.
Yes, so I did speak a little bit about this earlier. So the way the as and when tender for the utility have worked in the past, I found it not to be really clear. It wasn't very explanatory, and the expectations of the contractor wasn't very clear in those. So one of the changes I made this year was we included the map of the actual utility that they'll be working on and how much work they will be putting into it. So our experience this year was just like you said, 16,000 was what we got for the quote last year.
Yeah.
We ended up spending over 100.
Okay.
So this year we defined the job, the scope a little bit better. They had an actual map that showed them what they'll be doing. And so they gave us a cost based on that map.
Further questions on?
Sorry, or if I can just add, I think this is a more realistic and fiscally responsible way to present the utilidor repair. As compared to the previous, as and when contract was based on an hourly rate. But it was, underestimated in terms of the number of hours it would take per repair. So this is a much more realistic and again, it will help us actually budget for it rather than being over budget in some areas, so.
Councilor McDonald?
Yeah, just on our information packages, it might be a good idea to list the actual cost and not just the previous year's.
Yeah.
Bid.
Very good.
Yeah, that would be a good point. Yeah. Okay, 8, 9, as and when road fuel. Two bidders there. Be straightforward. Okay. 8, 10. Brush cutting. Councilor Barrett?
Again, probably self-explanatory. I'm assuming the increased costs for a higher expectation for more brushing activity this coming summer. Hopefully in anticipation of the bear fence being installed, so we want to get around the perimeter of the community again, because some of it's growing back from the brushing that was done several years ago.
Yeah, most of the ones at the perimeter we community will probably be handled in a different contract, which the director of protective services is currently working on. But yes, more brush cutting, more expectation. I think last year we actually didn't plan to have that done by a contractor, but yes, so the difference is we didn't plan to have it done last year. We ended up having to do it. So this year we're planning better.
Further questions on 8, 10? Okay.
This would be the addendum is next, 8, 11.
Yeah. That's something on in order there. 8, 11, the request for variance on 76 industrial. So this, the setback variance, in light industrial and a conditional use permit for a caretaker suite on light industrial. And Don Fisher is also here to answer any questions on this that council may have. Questions from council? Councilor Barrett?
I guess the first question I would have is, obviously, even if we approve a variance, there is a 2-week period of appeal by neighboring properties. I just wonder what the process would look like if an appeal was lodged by one of the neighboring properties. If we approved it in the first place.
Depending on what they were appealing, it would go to an appeal board as well, so there would be a significant delay in terms of getting the appeal board together and then making a determination. So it could be upwards of 3 months of a delay of that operation. And it depends on what they are appealing. Is it the placement of the building or is it the use of the caretaker suite? Because there's 2 things that we are looking for in this development permit. One is how close it is to the property line. And the other is the use of a caretaker unit, which is allowable.
But the caretaker's unit is a conditional use, so there's no variance, so would that part also go?
Right, so it's a conditional use, yes, the development permit in its entirety does.
But is that part appealed or only the variance, the setback variance is that part only appealable. Yes, I'm just clarifying whether, I know the request is for two separate things, but is the actual conditional use
Appealable.
appealable?
So I will have to look at that. I don't have the answer for you right now. I will have it by Wednesday morning.
Okay, yeah. Okay. But there is a whole process if it is an appeal, and then that comes back to council. Councilor McDonald?
Yeah, I just have a question on that variance itself, like, I mean, these are put in place, and then this is because I don't know, but these are put in place for specific reasons. Why would we allow smaller variances in this circumstance? What's the benefit, or what's the non-benefit?
A short answer is the distance from property lines, the distance from utilidor is to allow for emergency operations, like to be able to run the, say, for instance, if it was close to the utilidor route, can we still function, the fire department, bring the hose lines through and that type of thing. The other thing is the distance between particular buildings. So for instance, if one building is close to its property line and then the other property has theirs, then in terms of fire spread or fire risk spreading, that is another consideration as well. Or even if it would interfere with the property, the neighboring property's ability to build or what they would build near their property line in light of the outside of the variance. Or sorry, outside of the allowed distance.
Don, if you want me asking, you have a building there already?
Yes, we do. We actually, when we purchased the property, the shop was in place already. And then we subsequently obtained a second building, which we put in. One of the reasons we've placed the second building or the caretaker suite where it is because the shop, although it's not in a bad location, the truck door on the shop is in the back. And the only way we can gain access, or we felt we could gain reasonable access to the truck door to move in larger vehicles, and that was by having the second building placed in the farthest corner. Part of the reason it's in where it is there was a miscommunication with the contractor who placed it there. But it was our intention to place it as far back as we could in order to gain, when you enter the property, vehicles have to come around past that building or between those buildings to come into the truck door of the shop. So that was one of the reasons we placed it where we did, was to gain or maximize our ability to get in and out of the shop there.
So I'm guessing the intent was to follow the variance.
Yeah, it wasn't our intention to come in conflict with anybody. We're not looking for trouble. But it was our intention to place it as far back as we could get it in order to gain or maximize our ability to get into the shop. The truck door being on the end of the shop that it was, that's outside our ability to change. So we were trying to gain the most access and maximize obviously the use of the property. But I know that the placement of the building, like it's a minimal encroachment. We're not talking about 50 feet over or bumping up against the fence or anything like that. So we kind of found ourselves in a position where it ended up by the contractor placing it where they did. We end up obviously in conflict with the zoning, and that's not our intention. But I can assure you it's going to be a difficult challenge to move it back, actually, now that it's kind of all in place there. So because all the beams and supports and everything that were used initially to put it in place, they've all been removed and the building's been leveled up on blocking. So, and then we find ourselves in conflict, obviously. So
sorry, I'm not trying to, I'm just wondering, this, I'm guessing it should have been through, like, permitted already, like it should have went through our staff and approved before it could sit there.
Well, part of the challenge on that too was we moved the property in there and it wasn't necessarily initially gonna be, like, we were kind of leaving ourselves open. We didn't know if we were gonna leave it where it was on the property or if we were gonna simply improve the house itself or the building itself. It wasn't a house, it just an empty shell when we got it. And actually relocate that. So we've actually explored options, like whether buying another lot, if there's better value in picking it up and moving it somewhere else in town, a better location. So it was kind of a combination of, we were, as we developed, as we cleaned up the lot, as we moved all the items out that was left behind and that type of thing, we were working on the lot itself without the intention of putting this in, but then the opportunity presented itself, so we obtained it. It wasn't our intent at the beginning to get a development permit. And then we realized, well, when we started talking to people, the trades guy said, well, you guys gotta do this kind of thing, so we made application.
Any further questions on this one? Councilor Brown?
Yeah, not so much a question, I guess. I just asked the issue on the appeal because I don't have any significant concerns about this, seeing the correspondence from the fire chief that was included. That obviously was the biggest concern, is about response capabilities for emergencies, but no particular concern either about the use of as a caretaker unit. I think that's seems perfectly fine. It's not the only one in that area. But yeah, I guess I just was concerned if we did allow for the variance to go through and there were significant concerns from those neighboring properties, just what that would look like as far as coming back to us and get a chance to reconsider it again. And perhaps change our position based on the feedback we might or might not get. So I think, yeah, but myself, I don't have any significant concerns with the ability to enact a fire response if it's needed. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any response from any of the neighbors.
Yeah, or, I mean, anybody can appeal it, so it wouldn't necessarily just be the neighbors.
The neighboring properties.
Anybody can come back, but, yeah, then an appeal board would be set up to actually hear both sides and why there is an appeal on it, and then they'd make a recommendation back to council. Okay, is that correct, or is the appeal board decision final?
Could you actually pull up our zoning map? I think there is. You know what, before we delve too deep into
Yeah.
it, I will have those answers for you on Wednesday.
That'll be fine, yeah. Okay. Moving on, thanks, Don, we don't have any bylaws, so we're gonna go directly into the departmental updates, and 10.1 is infrastructure. Daniel, come and give his update.
Clicker should work if you want, or I can do it.
Okay, try it. Mike, right in.
Evening, councillors, just a quick update from the Department of Infrastructure. I guess the whole intent of this is just to catch up the new councillors, what has been going on, and just provide a quick update on what we've been up to. Pretty much the construction season is now pretty much done. We're currently focusing on winter and what that brings, so snow clearing, sanding, and all that kind of stuff. Oh, sorry. So as can be found on our website, most of the details and the bylaw about snow clearing and all that, it's on the website. Once we have an accumulation of about 15 centimeters on the floor, we get that cleaned, and the guys did that today, as you probably would have noticed.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's not working anymore.
Can you
Jenna.
move it in?
I'll do it.
Right, so this is what we currently have for snow removal map on the website. It shows the priorities we go with. So the the purple streets there is first priority, which includes Mackenzie, which is the main road, and then second, third, fourth, which is the focus the contractor has. The next map on there should be sanding, and this is the priority we go by as well for doing the sanding around town when and if required. Next slide, please. So capital projects, I did come into this position and inherited about 25 projects thereabout. So I've highlighted a couple of them on here on the slide. And the ones in greens are those that we've been able to complete this year. So the block 94-34 development of the new utility, which is the new residential area, that's complete. The Hidden Lake biomass, that's also complete. Well, the contractor is working through a couple of deficiencies. The MSC control is done. The fire inspection and door inspection for the MSC is done. And we have those in red that are currently active. We're gathering a little bit of data with those. And the ones highlighted in yellow are those that are currently on hold as a result of the weather, right? The season. So those will proceed as we get better weather here. So just highlighting a couple of those. So this is the biomass project at the Hidden Lake Reservoir. So this helps us heat up our water. So currently we get gas from active petroleum to do that. But once this is finally active and live, we'll be burning pallets to do that. So like I said earlier, the contractor is currently working on the efficiencies, and the current plan is to have that done by December 2024. MSC structural assessment. So we've had a couple of activities in the MSC. So the picture on the left there is the pool when the pool was getting repaired. So that was where we had the major leaks. All that has now been repaired and fixed, and the leak test done. And Director Krug might be able to speak more to the aquatics, what they're currently doing to get this open. But yes, we're done with the repairs and we're just waiting to finalize a couple items before the pool gets open. On the right, the picture there is for the thermistors. So we had about 3 thermistors installed around the MSC in the summer. This is to help us measure the temperature in the ground, because we're trying to, well, we have a couple of issues with the building, and we're trying to figure out a better solution. So we have a contract currently with an engineering firm called ACOM. And they installed that, and they're supposed to come up with a report that will help us determine where we are at with that building, how much more life we can get from it, and if and what we need to do to try and remediate some of the issues we have. That's sorry.
Sorry, Daniel, can you also talk about the geotech that's being done around the rest of the property in anticipation of, say, 10 years from now, where we can build?
Yes, so the plan with that is, depending on what the report comes up with, we did do geotech as well around the property. Those samples have been sent to the lab, and we're currently waiting for the report. The whole idea is, if we do get if we proceed with potentially planning for a new building, depending on what the state of this building is, we'll be able to determine where else on that lot we can place the building, and what that's going to look like. So geotech has been done this summer, and the results should come with the report in the early next year. Block 3494, the new utility construction at the residential area. Like I said, that's complete now. The engineers are working through a couple. We currently have an issue there, which is pressure. So some of the residents in Carmichael and Semler are currently experiencing a little bit of low water pressure, and the engineers are currently working to come up with a solution for that. And there is also a deficiency with the SCADA, which the contractor has to complete before he gets his final payment. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Questions for Daniel? Dr. Braddock?
I guess I just had one initial, a bit of an observation, I guess. Probably because I live in that area, but along Reliance, when they dug that final ditch to lay into the junction box in between Reliance and Centennial, I think the drainage from might have been impacted, because it started to see a lot of water backed up all the way up the street from the driveways of a bunch of the houses. So it might be something to pay attention to in the spring. But there may need to be some adjustments to the drainage in that area, because if the previous drainage has been blocked, it may back up all the water come melt time. Sure. All the way up the street, it's affected at least halfway up, I think I could see water in everybody's ditches, much more than normal. That was after a period of a bit of rain, so.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that.
Councilor McDonald?
Yeah, I just have a question on the biomass. I mean, I wasn't part of the last council, so I don't have a lot of background on it, but I'm guessing that the bulk of that was a federally funded or a funded,
Yes,
Project.
we did get funding from NRCan, yeah.
and now that the project is done, you have a projection on, because the pellets aren't gonna be funded, we have to buy them.
Yeah.
So is that gonna save, is that cheaper than gas?
That was one of the first questions I asked when I went to that site, because like I said, I inherited the project myself. I guess we'll be able to, once it's active, I mean, once it's live and we start to use it, we'll be able to determine if this free money we got actually created a savings. Yeah.
So there was no projection?
I can't speak for the previous administration. I wasn't here when the decision was made to proceed with the project.
So I guess if we start to use it, then we'll get a better idea of whether we're actually saving money or
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah, it'll be easy to compare at that point, right? So right now, we've been spending money every year through Arctic Petroleum to get gas delivered to that to Hidden Lake. So once this comes live, that will stop. We already have the silos filled up already with pallets. Like I said, we're just waiting for a couple of deficiencies to be finished. And this should go live. But typically this actually doesn't run the entire year anyways. It only runs from when it gets really cold, from around October till March, beginning of April, somewhere there, and then it shuts down. And then we're shutting down for the year, right? Once we have better weather out there, we do need to heat up the water.
Okay, any further questions, Emmanuel? Councilor Barrow?
Yeah, so one, it's a bit of an interesting tidbit and an odd question. When they did the solar panel farm clearing on Gwitchin Road, I would say it was actually kind of funny and nice to see pieces of an old fort that had, when I was a kid, way up in the edge of the bushes there, when they cleared that out. The other thing I noticed is there was a picnic table there. Was that actually there when they did the clearing of all that brush? It was kind of just buried in all the woods.
It's not a big table, but yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, they found that there.
Okay.
So it looked like it was an old test site. So there's a pile. The pile was drilled right in there. I did ask Rick if he had any idea when that was done, but he said he doesn't know anything about it. So I don't know when that was done, but it was an old test pile that was drilled into that site sometime in the past. Thanks.
Councilor McDonald?
You brought up the solar. On the zoning map, that was zoned, I believe you're gonna have to answer this, but green space, I believe. Is that correct?
I'm just taking a look at it.
Yeah.
So there was also a portion, actually it was commissioner's land to start with. So we had to acquire that land and that at that point was green space,
Yeah.
hinterland, yeah.
I thought I saw on the map that it was green space, but
Yeah. But we did go to council for all of the process and approvals before any work started on that.
Oh, I believe it was, sorry, I was just curious, I'm going to get up to speed because there was a lot of public engagement on that I saw. So if it was green space, do we replace other space with the green space? Like, do we keep a certain percentage of zoning as green space, or do we just take that green space and turn it into a solar farm?
Interestingly enough, there's future projects coming up with protective services here that actually has us for fire protection. Yeah, fire protection that actually has us clearing that entire site. Almost all of it. So it's the future coming to
No further questions? We've got four more reports, so we'll move on to protective services.
Good job, David.
The good news in terms of timing is I'm doing mine in the next cycle, just we've had a rather busy operational period in the last couple weeks. And we're completing some projects that we're doing within protected services that will be completed in time for the next council meeting. And I'd rather talk about what we have implemented, what we're doing instead of what we plan to do. But at the same time, I want to be able to take any questions that may come up. So if you guys have that, I'd love to answer anything, but I'll provide a more fulsome report next council meeting.
Questions for protective services? Everyone knows you've had a long day starting.
Dave.
Yes, well, last night at 10 and then again at 2, so yeah, we're letting you off on the question on the hot seat. Thanks.
I don't, never mind answering.
Excuse me, but there's a couple of other directors who should get let off too. From now on. Not just him.
Yes. Parks and Recreation and Leisure. Picture each one I like.
Here we go. So to start my report, we've completed our major pool repair, through assorted testing, for leaks with dive, water level monitoring, visual monitoring. Our system checks and pumps and controllers are all operational. Our pool is full and our health inspection is scheduled for 9 AM tomorrow morning, which is our last hurdle before opening. So, we're really excited about that. Daniel had touched on the data loggers that were installed, and they are operational, and there's 1 year of commencing to collect data. Those are those boxes that were in the family change room. We hosted a Halloween glow in the dark skate on October 26th. We had over 100 participants at 2 various ice times for family and public skating. Further down the road, we've secured both dates for the IRC Cup and the Gwitchin Cup, as dated February 20th to 23rd, and the Gwitchin Cup March 13th to the 16th. We'll also finalize the operation Nanook, Nanuvaluit 2025. It's a large military operation being hosted here in Inuvik, February 5th to March 15th, 2025. We've also undergone a meeting with the Arctic Ultra race people. If you're not familiar with the race, it's a large race from, I think it's from Whitehorse all the way to Tuktoyaktuk. So we've had one meeting. We're gonna have another meeting with them to see what we can offer for racers and other spectators. We've also recently engaged in a recreation program partnership with the NETAT. For some pop-up programs for youth that include various activities such as snowshoeing and our kick sleds, and we look forward to hosting more activities with them. As mentioned in the RCMP report, it's Christmas party season. So we've got lots of bookings for Christmas parties in December. We're pretty much booked every weekend for Christmas parties. Further into the new year, we're looking at offering some fitness center promotions to attract new members. What that looks like, we're still working those bugs out. There could be some chats with finance on how we have to prepare certain GL codes for certain percentages of discount and whatnot. And then we're also going to be looking at getting some more pool sponsorships to keep swimming free for residents. And recently, departmental budget prep and preparedness, both operating and capital. So that's been taking up a lot of my time. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Questions for Steve? Councilor Barrett?
Just a quick question out of curiosity. What's the ask for sponsorship for the pool to keep it free for a month? What's the usual?
It can vary from, if you'd like to maybe not you, but residents or other businesses, you can individualize public swimming, family swimming, or other teen swim and adult swims, and those vary based on hourly usage, or I believe it's $5,500 for the entire year or the entire month to cover all non-instructor led swimming times.
Any further questions, Councilor McDonald?
Just a quick question on the pool, because there's a lot of misinformation probably and stuff. The leak test, how did it go, and are we still losing water? And if so, how much? And if so, do you have any idea where from?
So the leak testing was done, when the repairs were completed. And we did notice that we were still losing some water, nowhere near the amounts that we were losing. At one point we were losing 12,000 cubic liters a day, which is astronomical. Now we're losing a few drips, just very small, nowhere near the amount that we were losing. But we are prepared to, open once our public health inspection passes tomorrow morning.
The leakage is negligible, like basically not no more than any other pool generally would have. I'm guessing is what you're saying.
I'm comfortable to answer that. The pool leaks that are there within the threshold of my comfort level, and also the contractor and the engineer as well.
If I might add, knowing where the leaks are in terms of the source of the leaks, that is going to be monitored. And we do have a gauge in our sump pump as well. So if our maintainers are seeing an increase in water, so it will be monitored. So it's not like, okay, there's a leak, we know there's a leak there, we're not gonna, forget about it. It will be monitored to ensure that a small leak doesn't become a big leak.
Any further questions, Steve? No, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Economic Development and Tourism, Charlotte.
Good evening. I'll give you just a quick report on what has been done regarding events. Myself and the marketing coordinator have attended the Inuvik Tourism AGM and conference earlier this month. The town of Inuvik has a voting power within the Inuvik Tourism organization. So we voted on several topics to advocate to promote and increase tourism within the Inuvik, and also, of course, elected some new directors, board members in charge of developing the tourism in the Northwest Territories. We also, of course, met some partners, got some new ideas to market our town. We also organized the last Arctic Market of the year on November 9th with 34 vendors. This year, thanks to the partnership with the greenhouse, we organized 28 Arctic Markets. On an average, each vendor, per vendor and per market, they would make a sale of $500. Total average revenue generated is $94,000 this year, thanks to markets. Christmas tree lighting will happen in December. We're still waiting for a date. It will come. And we're actively working on the Inuvik Sunrise Festival. We have a draft scheduled ready, and we're looking for sponsorship. We're already getting some answers from sponsors, so it's in the move. And some pictures from the Inuvik Tourism, AGM and conference, and then just down there's Arctic Market vendor. Some projects we're working on right now with the mayor, the newsletter. It will be a 4 pages or maybe more if people have to say more words than expected. So it'll be the mayor's message, Also, the idea is also to have your face public, so people know who you are, so council will have their pictures as well at the bottom. And then each department will give an update to the community. This newsletter will be distributed throughout the town in different buildings. And the first edition, so it will be bi-monthly, and the first edition is coming out December 1st. It's still in the moon when we're working on it, but yeah. We're also starting to reach out to companies for the 2025 Inuvik Guide. We're also giving out some discounts for early birds, and we're closing the date to submit your application on January 31st. We also have PR Services, which is our contractor, the publisher, that is going to come up and help us seal these contracts as well. We're finishing up also on the Town of Inuvik promotional video that we've been working on since May this year, April this year. So it's finally coming to an end. And finally, we're working on a website to clean it up. And this is a cross-departmental project. Clean it up, have the info more accurate, easy to access as well. And looking into migrating all that next year. So that's going to be a bigger project as well for next year. Also, side note, regarding our social media, the audience is getting bigger and bigger thanks to our marketing coordinator. Facebook outreach is great, Instagram as well, and she just started LinkedIn with more professional content to reach other people as well. And also we promoted the town at the Space Tech Expo in Germany. Inuvik made it all the way to Space Tech Germany, thanks to our partner, Mackenzie Valley Fiber Link. Talking about the satellite station, we made special promotional items for that event. So, and before I forget, also the stakeholder meetings we had 2 weeks ago, it's about tourism and economic development, the mayor attended. I believe you also got some invites. It's interesting because different partners from the town are coming and discussing their projects, and also you can see around the table partnership being made. If you cannot attend, minutes are sent out, and you can always reach out to tourism@inuvik.ca or myself. Next one will be held on March 14th. And that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Thanks, Charlotte. Questions for Charlotte? It's not so much questions, but adding a bit more onto the newsletter. In that all of the staff will eventually be featured in pictures, just an effort so that community members know who people are that are working for the town and know who the council is, and we discussed, okay, how do we distribute that? Because some elders may not have the, be able to get the digital copy, so it will be dropped off at offices throughout town, hard copies of it, as well as on a couple of bulletin boards. There will be a envelope with some hard copies in it, so that if you aren't connected or don't want to be connected to receive it digitally, then you can actually grab a hard copy of it. And it'll be something all the staff use for getting information out to the community, whether it's projects or road closures or events or whatever it happens to be, just to keep community members better informed. So stay tuned, it'll be coming to an email near you soon. Yeah. Okay, our last directors. Sorry, not the last one. Yes, last one is Stephen, Senior Admin Officer.
Sorry to clarify, the Director of Corporate Services report was not on the agenda. It was an absence, so he's speaking for corporate services.
Oh, corporate services, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, right, not you, yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is corporate services update. Usually provide two quantitative reports for council, which is the capital projects report and the operating budget report. So you have the capital project report in your sent out, and usually, okay, like they've done, the directors will speak to, where you have variances, especially when you have major variances in the capital projects budget versus actual. And then I'll just give a high level of those reports. I have both of them with me, the capital report and the operating report, but from a high level standpoint, I would just say that most of the major capital projects are being rolled over into 2025. So you have 50% completed, and the rest are going to be, the rest funds to be spent next year. And comments by Mark. Okay, we sent our audited financial statements to 2023 draft. We sent it to Marker. We just got their response today. They have some comments that we need to work on. So together with the auditors, we'll be working on those comments. And the major thing that we're all working on right now is the 2025 budget, which needs to be out by first week of December. So qualitative updates, what we accomplished. We met the November 18th deadline for the submission of 2024 Inuvik cars. That's the assessment reports to determine the next property bills and the mill rate for next year. We had the deadline of November 18th. We were able to submit it before then, and they are yet to get back to us on the final copy that will help us determine how much the property rates will be for next year. My staff started some bookkeeping training, and one of them completed that this week, and the other three are going to take turns to get into bookkeeping training so that they can update their knowledge. And what's coming up, to begin working on various funding reports for MACA and other funders. From tomorrow, two of us, myself and my AP staff, will be going to Vancouver for the Maize conference. Our software is Maize, and every year they have an annual conference where people meet and rub minds on what's the next release, what are the challenges you have concerning the software and all of that. So this week we'll be attending that conference. We expect that the meter reading and sending out utility invoices will happen latest by December 9th. We're going to have a notice on maybe the newsletter for people to come around and pick up their utility bills by December 9th because of the current strike. I want to also advise citizens to send in their email addresses. We have a few, but we need to have more so we can start moving towards paperless utility bills.
Thank you, Stephen. Questions for Stephen on any of that? Questions? Okay, thanks, Stephen. Now we get the senior event officer update.
So with regard to the senior administrative officer update, I just want to start with a caveat. And that caveat is basically, all of this work is not, all of what I do is not done in isolation. I might have a side project here or there, but it is working with the directors in terms of the mentoring, the supervision, the brainstorming for the work that they are doing. So I don't want to speak for them, but I am the one who is providing the resources and the insights to facilitate the work, the good work that they are doing on that side. The other people that I work with, of course, are the mayor, working closely with the mayor. So some of what I'm going to talk about, the mayor will also have talked about. Again, he's the rudder, I'm the engine. So he has the ideas, I try to get the work done. And of course, through Jenna as well. So I just need to emphasize, it's not just myself that is represented in what I'm speaking of. So in terms of the council work, just historically, when we do these updates, it's based on the month prior. So you will see, I'm talking about the council orientation, you know, the and the work that was done that way. And again, that is not done in isolation. One of the things that came out from the council work that we have done is the need for a strategic planning session. So I have two recommendations that I'm reaching out to. One was the gentleman, Gordon McIntosh, who worked with the previous councils on their strategic planning chart and going through that exercise. And another one is Christine Benty, I believe her last name is, and she's more asset management and strategic planning that way from a community planning perspective. So I hope to do that for the spring. When I'm reaching out to them, I will also reach out to you to gauge the best time for all of council to be there, because I think it's important that all of council be represented there. So I will be reaching out to you about if you're having plans to go away, when you're going to be going away, and we can work around that. From the director of management work, just so you know, in terms of how we manage operationally within the town, we have a monthly director managers meeting. That where it's a focused agenda, talking about the larger organization-wide needs or revisions to policies that are required. And of course, supporting each other. So if somebody needs help, or for instance, if Charlotte is planning the Sunrise Festival, then it's that yearly planning going, who else is involved in that? So is it the fire department needs to be involved, MSC needs to be involved. So those meetings are primarily talking about human resources, talking about policies, as well as planning for the next year. And then sometimes it's just, I'm having an issue and brainstorming some thoughts collectively to come up with some good solutions that way. So we do meet monthly for that. The other thing that we do as well, budget development. So you'll see that's coming up. And what we have done in anticipation of the budget, we started about 6 weeks ago, and we meet weekly to talk about the operational budget, the capital budget, what that planning is doing. So what is going to be created from there is a binder for you, and we hope to have that a number of days. No guarantees that it's going to be like a week in advance, because again, there are some numbers that we are working on and number crunching, but you will have the package before you go into the council deliberations on December 8th. So we'll likely have it by the 5th or 6th for you. So that way you've got some reading to do. If you'd like, I can even put a little highlighter in your binders so you can highlight those questions that you're going to be having. And again, not only is it numbers, but it's also justification sheets, why we're asking for an increase or why we're reducing it in some other area. So it'll be an interesting perspective. The other things that we work on from the director and management side is general staffing and supervision matters. There might be some issues that come up that, okay, we need to take a look at a policy again, we need to clarify a policy. Myself and the MSC staff met this afternoon actually to identify an issue that had arisen and provide some staff training for our frontline staff. And giving them some tools to be more efficient in a safe work environment. So that's some of the work I'm doing that way. Certainly HR items, oversight, coaching, mentoring, that type of thing. In terms of external consultation, Mayor had identified, for instance, the Inuvik works. So that is one of the things that I had brought to the interagency committee. And just so you know, it is not only town council here that wants to see that program revisited. A lot of support from the interagency committee. It was unanimous that everybody wanted to move it forward. Already some of the agencies, for instance, Hope House is offering, we can do this. IRC is looking at, how they can contribute, a lot of the other interagencies. So it's something that, thank you for giving the direction for us to pursue this. I think it'll be a benefit for all of the community and everybody's going to be involved in that, not just the town of Inuvik. The other things that we also do some consultation, or we might get, occasionally we might get somebody from the outside going, hey, we'd like to know more about Inuvik. For instance, Nutrition North was up through the federal government and talking about what aspects of nutrition, food sovereignty, sustainability, the cost of food and that type of thing. So both the mayor and myself met with them to give them their insights. We also have other municipalities towns reaching out to us for benchmarking. So for instance, Fort Smith has reached out to us. I'll be passing that information on to the directors. They're doing an organizational review and they'd like some peer comparison. So we're going to be providing them with some insights that way, as well as the mental health working group, again, facilitating and supporting their efforts that way. Thank you. From a strategic planning point, as I said, and I've got the asterisk there, that's going to be a future work that we are doing with yourselves in the spring. And the other big thing that's going to be coming up is our community plan revision. So I think most of you are aware, we did have a community plan that was worked on through 2023. It went up for ministerial review and it was sent back for further engagement and consultation with our Indigenous governments. And we will be working, once we get through the budget, we will be working on our community plan. So hopefully by the spring, we can have a more inclusive community plan come forward. So you can expect that to be into the spring. We'll start that in January and get that up and running again. The mayor has done a lot of work in terms of the leadership level engagement. And I think it'll be a much more robust and well thought out plan moving forward. In terms of various administration day-to-day activities, we deal on our side with land administration. That could be everything from land sales to land development. Speaking of land development, it was not included on the agenda, but Wednesday night, we will be adding it to the agenda, the second reading for the IRC hotel. So a reminder, our public meeting is at 6 o'clock. You do not have to, it's not mandatory that council attends that public meeting. If you would like to hear from the public, you are more than welcome to. To date, we haven't had anybody in opposition calling me and saying, no, I wanna speak at that. Jenna will be sending out the agenda for Wednesday night's public meeting. From there, if there is no strong opposition, then on Wednesday, you will do the second reading of the bylaw that we presented at the last council meeting, and then that will move that forward. We also development processing, financial approvals, legal matters. We do consult with our legal team. It could be everything from a taxation question to a code of conduct question to, various lawsuits that we might be involved in, historical lawsuits that we would be dealing with. Some of the other things that we work with, at the front desk are lottery and business licensing that we were working on. And, another example of that administration is the general hike. So, the general rate hike for NTPC. So we've done some research. Now, based on your direction, we are going to be now working with them to do some administration. So it's multifaceted. Every day is a different task, but that's generally what I do try to cover within the course of a month. And that's really about it from my side. It's a lot, but a lot of it is done at that side of the room and this side of the room as well.
Any questions for Cindy? Matt, are you still with us? You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Cindy? Okay. That concludes all the department updates. Just have a couple of information items. There's whenever I see a good news story, I like to include it in the information items because it's a good news story and it involves residents or groups in the community or whatever. It's just good to highlight that and then let people know. And this actually came across like on the distribution list for everything coming out of the territorial government, and it came across that there were 2 forestry scholarships and that were awarded territories wide. And one was an Inuvik resident and also happens to be the daughter of Councilor McDonald. So double good news. So it's great to see our youth achieving things and going to school and doing great work. And in this case, receiving, I believe it's a $5,000 scholarship. So anyway, it's good news. The second item is after Councilor Merrill suggested, we should have a park and recreation leisure services board. Cindy and I sat down with Jenna and thought, okay, have we got all the bases covered? And so then we revamped the board structure or the committee structure just slightly. And so we've got 3 main committees: Public Works and Protective Services, Leisure Services, which Park, Recreation, Leisure and Economic Development, and then Finance and Admin. And then we've got the other committees: Bylaw Review, Naming Committee, Lottery Committee, and then some of the smaller ones that are just one event type committees or as and when committees. So if you have an opportunity to look at those and consider those between now and Wednesday, we could appoint people. If you want more time to consider that, then we can do that at the December meeting. So whatever you decide as far as time that you would need to do. And again, the role of the committees is to be able to work with the staff on things before they hit the council table. And so if there's some special projects or the budget for that, next year, it's an opportunity to ask questions and give it additional thought from a council perspective and receive answers from staff on why that's being brought forward. But it's also an opportunity for councilors to, suggest things at that level and then see what could be done before it actually comes for a council decision or discussion amongst all the councilors. So that's the role of all of those committees. And now we've set it up so that it would address all of the departments that we've got. Okay, any questions on that? Councilor Parrott?
Can the name of the new Recreation Services and Economic Development be the full title of both departments of Parks, Recreation, and Leisure? I know it's long, but it's more accurate.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And then we thought, well, leisure services kind of encompasses all of that. So that's why we shortened it, because it was the 3 3 lines long, so that's why it was shortened, but that committee will be able to change it to whatever they want.
Parks, Recreation and movement. So that it's clear, because it wasn't clear when we were doing it versus what Peter said.
What we can do is, when the committee meets, whatever name you want to use as your committee, because you also, you select a chair of that committee and stuff like that, so whatever name that committee wants, no problem calling them that. If you want to lengthen it, if you want to shorten it, want to just use initials, it's, it'll be your committee, so, yeah, no problem with that. Any other questions on committees? Okay.
Okay, for what we want.
Any other council comments? Is there anything you wanted to bring up tonight that you didn't have a chance? This is the standard agenda item that'll be at the end of each meeting. If there's any information items also, if you know of something going on that hasn't been brought to the table, more than welcome to provide information items. If you know of something that's going on that would be of interest to the entire community.
Just in regards to Don's request with his conditional use. Are we sending out a letter to his neighboring people?
Yes, once you've given me the direction, then we will reach out to the neighbor as part of the appeal process.
Yeah.
Just like I did with the IRC motel.
Mm,
Yeah, and it's the adjacent neighbors. Yeah.
I understand.
I think within 500 meters or 100 meters of the property.
So that'll be after Wednesday, once council makes a decision. Because depending on the decision, there may or may not be the need for an appeal committee, so that's why we have to wait until after that Wednesday meeting. Okay, anything further? If not, that's the end of the committee of the whole meeting. Nothing else, right? That's the end. So thank you everyone for coming out, and look forward to seeing everybody. I know there were a couple councilors tonight that were not able to make it with the flight not coming in. We had one councilor stuck in the day before. We had one councilor stuck in Yellowknife. Mario was dealing with the fire, so yeah, and then Councilor Wayman also had some stuff to deal with as far as equipment, so anyway, hopefully we'll have a full house again on Wednesday when we actually make decisions, but I think it's very good to go through all of these items and get all of the reports on Monday before we go in and make the actual decisions, so thanks for showing up. Thanks, Alana.